The winner.
Charlie Rich gets on stage, and I think he thought it was going to be his moment to further ingratiate himself with the Nashville establishment.
What if an award show moment meant to honor talent was actually an act of sabotage, or something far more nefarious? The 1975 CMA Awards had one of the most shocking moments in country music history, when Charlie Rich, the Silver Fox himself, took to the stage to announce the winner for Entertainer of the Year. In what was supposed to be a moment of excitement and celebration, Rich's unexpected action stunned everyone. Instead of gracefully congratulating the winner, John Denver, Rich reached into his pocket, pulled out a lighter, and set Denver's award announcement card on fire for all to see. It seemed like a spontaneous act of rebellion. A well-known traditionalist in country music, Rich's actions were immediately interpreted as a protest against Denver's success. But what if there was more to it? Recent revelations from John Denver's daughter suggest this might not have been just an emotional outburst. According to her, Rich's fiery stunt had deeper implications, perhaps even meant to ruin her father's career and reputation. Some have even speculated that this wasn't just about rivalry. It was about putting an end to a new wave of country that was threatening to overshadow the roots and values traditionalists like Rich held dear. In a world of fame, rivalry, and shifting musical tides, was Charlie Rich's act a message to the industry, or was it something darker? Today, we're diving deep into the CMA moment that everyone thought they understood, but maybe never really did. Let's uncover the shocking truth behind the act, the whispers within the country music community, and why, after all these years, it's still a mystery that holds the power to surprise. To understand why Charlie Rich's infamous act at the 1975 CMA Awards was so shocking, we need to take a closer look at the country music landscape of the time. The mid-70s was a period of major transformation in country music, with deep-rooted divides between artists who represented the old guard and those pushing the genre in new, more commercial directions. At the heart of this tension were artists like Rich, who embodied the traditional sound of country, and newer stars like John Denver, whose softer folk-influenced style made country music accessible to a broader mainstream audience. Charlie Rich, known as the Silver Fox, was a powerhouse in his own right. With a career marked by soulful songs and an emotionally rich voice, he had worked his way up in the music industry with hits like Behind Closed Doors and The Most Beautiful Girl. Rich was respected for his authenticity and passion, but he was also famously vocal about what he believed true country music should be. To him, country was more than just music. It was a lifestyle, a culture, and a set of values rooted in American tradition. Many fans and artists looked up to Rich as a defender of that tradition, which made him an influential voice in the country music world. On the other hand, John Denver represented a new, more polished, and commercially appealing wave of country music that appealed to both country fans and mainstream audiences. His songs, like Take Me Home, Country Roads, and Rocky Mountain High, blended folk and country elements, giving them a gentle, almost poetic quality. Denver's success didn't sit well with everyone in Nashville. While he was beloved by millions of fans, there were whispers among traditionalists that he wasn't country enough, that his music diluted the raw, genuine spirit of country music. For some, he symbolized the industry's shift toward commercialism, a shift that felt like a betrayal of the genre's roots. This tension between traditional country and the more mainstream appeal Denver brought was only growing stronger, and it was into this atmosphere that the 1975 CMA Awards were set. Charlie Rich was invited to present the prestigious Entertainer of the Year award, a role usually reserved for someone respected and trusted within the industry. He was expected to honor the winner with a sense of dignity and pride, as had always been the tradition. But in that moment, something snapped. Rich, feeling the weight of the genre's shift and his personal beliefs, chose to make a statement that would reverberate through the country music world. What seemed like an ordinary awards show turned into a battlefield of old versus new, traditional versus mainstream, passion versus commercialism. By the time he reached into his pocket for that lighter, the world had no idea it was about to witness a turning point that would divide fans, artists, and even the industry itself. The moment Charlie Rich set fire to the CMA Award announcement card, became an unforgettable scene in country music history. Standing on stage in front of his peers and a live audience, Rich's actions shocked everyone, leaving fans and industry insiders alike wondering what could have driven such a respected artist to make such a drastic statement. But to understand why he did it, we need to break down exactly what happened that night and what may have been going on beneath the surface. As Rich stood there, holding the card that named John Denver as Entertainer of the Year, there was a visible change in his demeanor. Instead of simply reading Denver's name, he paused, almost as if deciding whether he should go through with it. Then, in a move no one expected, he pulled out a lighter, flicked it on, and set the card ablaze. The flames caught instantly, and for a brief moment, all eyes were on Rich, watching as he let the card burn. It was a moment of defiance that left everyone in stunned silence. At face value, it seemed like a symbolic rejection of John Denver and his more commercialized style of country music. Many interpreted it as Rich's way of saying that Denver, with his folk-inspired sound and mainstream popularity, didn't belong in the country music tradition. But there were hints that this act may have had deeper, personal motivations. Over the years, Rich had grown frustrated with what he saw as the watering down of country music, a shift towards softer, less gritty sounds that catered to broader audiences, but, in his view, compromised the integrity of the genre. The media quickly picked up on the incident, splashing it across headlines and speculating about what Rich's intentions might have been. Some claimed he was drunk, as Rich had openly struggled with alcohol, and suggested his judgment may have been clouded. Others argued it was a calculated move to send a clear message that traditional country artists like himself would not go down quietly as the genre shifted toward mainstream appeal. Whether his actions were influenced by alcohol or frustration, or perhaps a mixture of both, the result was a public statement that could not be ignored. But what many didn't realize was that this wasn't just about country music changing. For Rich, this incident struck at something personal. He'd spent years fighting for recognition and respect as a true country artist, and seeing someone like Denver celebrated at the expense of the genre's traditional values felt like a betrayal. It was as if all the hard work and authenticity he believed in was being overshadowed by an artist who, in his eyes, didn't fully understand the spirit of country music. In the days following the awards, the fallout from the incident was intense. Rich faced criticism and backlash, not only from fans in the industry, but also from people who once respected him. What was supposed to be an expression of passion turned into a scandal that would follow him for the rest of his career. Decades after that fiery incident at the CMA Awards, a new perspective on the event emerged, from none other than John Denver's own daughter, who shed a surprising light on the emotional impact her father felt. Although John Denver publicly maintained his calm and positive demeanor, those close to him knew that Charlie Rich's actions at the awards show had a profound effect on him. In recent years, his daughter has shared her thoughts on what the incident meant to her father, and her words suggest that the damage went far deeper than many fans ever realized. Denver's daughter described her father as someone who deeply valued harmony and respect, both in his personal life and in the music industry. He had never seen himself as a disruptor or someone aiming to replace traditional country artists. For him, blending folk and country was a way of honoring both genres, bringing people together with songs that resonated universally. The idea that his music could be seen as an intrusion or even a threat to traditional country stars genuinely hurt him, as he had immense respect for the artists who had come before him. The CMA incident, however, wasn't something he easily brushed off. Denver's daughter revealed that privately, he struggled with feelings of rejection and disappointment. Here he was, being honored for his contributions to the genre, yet his victory was marred by an act of public defiance from a fellow artist. For Denver, who was a sensitive soul by nature, this public humiliation lingered. According to his daughter, it left him questioning his place in the country music world, a world he had once believed would welcome him with open arms. More surprisingly, his daughter has hinted that her father's life and career took a darker turn following this incident. She believes that the rejection he felt that night planted a seed of doubt that haunted him for years. Although he continued making music and gaining popularity, there was always a part of him that felt out of place, as though he were an outsider, trying to fit into a world that didn't fully accept him. His daughter has even suggested that this incident played a role in his personal struggles, which later became more visible to the public. These reflections from John Denver's daughter paint a picture of a sensitive artist whose spirit was wounded that night. While he carried on with his career, Denver's daughter believes the impact of that incident reached beyond just one award show moment. She describes her father as a man with a deep love for his craft, a genuine artist who sought connection through his music. To feel like an outsider, rejected by those he admired, was a bitter pill for him to swallow. For fans of both Rich and Denver, these revelations bring up a troubling question. Was this famous CMA moment a harsh, misguided protest against Denver's music? Or was it something deeper, almost like an unspoken warning to any artist trying to blend country with other genres? To this day, opinions remain divided. Some argue that Rich's action, while inappropriate, was simply a personal expression of frustration with the changing landscape of country music. Others see it as an attempt to shame Denver publicly, casting a shadow over his rightful achievement and leaving a wound that never fully healed. Through her words, Denver's daughter has invited fans to reevaluate that night from her father's perspective. What might have been a rebellious one-time statement from Rich turned into a lingering pain for Denver, one that may have shaped how he viewed his place in country music for years to come. To this day, it raises a haunting question about how moments of rejection can stay with us, long after the world has moved on. And with that, the CMA incident stands not only as an unforgettable moment in country music history, but as a reminder of the deep personal cost that fame and rivalry can sometimes bring. The flames may have burned out that night, but the scars they left behind would remain with John Denver forever. The more closely we examine Charlie Rich's actions that night, the more questions arise. Was his decision to set fire to John Denver's award announcement a spur-of-the-moment impulse, or was it something premeditated, a statement aimed at the very foundation of the changing country music scene? Over the years, some insiders have speculated that this act wasn't just personal frustration, but a calculated move to make a stand against the new wave artists like Denver, who were redefining the genre in ways Rich found threatening. To understand this, we need to look at the tensions brewing in the industry during that period. Rich wasn't alone in feeling that traditional country music was being eclipsed by a more polished, commercialized version that appealed to pop audiences. Artists like Denver, with their cross-genre appeal, were opening doors to a new fan base, bringing country to a mainstream audience, but also diluting what some purists viewed as the essence of the genre. To many, this shift felt like a betrayal, a departure from the raw, authentic sounds of Hank Williams, Merle Haggard, and others who had paved the way for Rich himself. As someone who had spent his career devoted to a grittier, more traditional style, Rich saw himself as a defender of country's legacy. Some sources suggest he had become increasingly vocal in private conversations about what he saw as the watering down of the genre. Setting fire to the announcement card may have been his way of physically manifesting his disapproval, a symbol of his disdain for what Denver represented. It was as if Rich was drawing a line in the sand, making it clear that he did not recognize Denver as a true representative of country music's heritage. In the days that followed, rumors circulated that Rich's actions may have been quietly encouraged by other industry figures who shared his views. Some speculated that traditionalists within Nashville's inner circles were becoming resentful of Denver's rise and viewed him as an outsider, someone who hadn't paid his dues in the same way they had. Although there is no definitive evidence of anyone pushing Rich to take this extreme step, the atmosphere of tension and rivalry within the industry at that time may have influenced him more than we know. In addition to professional frustrations, there was a personal angle that some believe may have influenced Rich's actions. As his fame began to fade in the years following his biggest hits, he struggled to maintain his place in a rapidly changing industry. Denver's success felt like a painful reminder that the spotlight was shifting toward a new generation. Rich may have felt not only betrayed by the genre he loved, but also left behind by an industry that was embracing a different image of country music. While Rich never publicly explained his motivations in depth, the layers of resentment and rivalry within the industry suggest his actions were not purely impulsive. His fiery protest was a reflection of a broader clash between the old guard and the new, a last-ditch stand to remind the world what real country music should be. But in doing so, he unknowingly opened a wound that would not only affect John Denver, but would also permanently shape his own legacy. The CMA incident sent ripples through the country music world, leaving a lasting impact on the careers of both Charlie Rich and John Denver. While the act itself was brief, a few seconds of flames and a stunned silence, the consequences extended far beyond that night. For Charlie Rich, what he intended as a bold stand against the changing tides of country music became a moment that would forever alter his reputation. And for John Denver, the incident was a painful reminder of his struggle for acceptance in an industry that didn't fully embrace him. After the incident, Rich faced intense backlash. Fans and industry figures alike criticized his actions, seeing them as disrespectful and inappropriate. For many, the CMA stage represented the pinnacle of country music, a place for artists to be celebrated with dignity and respect. Setting fire to another artist's award announcement was seen as a violation of that tradition. Some fans who once admired Rich's commitment to authenticity were now disappointed by his lack of sportsmanship, and the incident quickly overshadowed his previous accomplishments. Although Rich continued to perform and record music, he was often haunted by that fiery moment, with interviews and media coverage frequently revisiting the incident. This public reaction had a significant impact on Rich's career. Many saw him as a rebel who had taken things too far, and he found it increasingly difficult to secure the same level of respect and recognition he'd enjoyed before. The country music industry, too, began distancing itself from Rich, as the incident cast a shadow over his reputation as a serious artist. While he continued to have fans and supporters, the fiery protest at the CMAs marked a turning point, shifting public perception from admiration to controversy. For John Denver, the incident highlighted the barriers he faced as a new kind of artist in the country music world. Although he was a major crossover star with massive mainstream appeal, there was a sense within Nashville's core circles that he was an outsider. Rich's protest didn't just embarrass him, it underscored the resistance he encountered from traditionalists who saw his folk-influenced, pop-friendly style as a threat to the roots of country music. Despite his immense popularity and loyal fan base, Denver's career in country music was often punctuated by reminders that he wasn't fully accepted by the genre's gatekeepers. Denver's response to the incident was graceful and understated, as he continued to pursue his vision of music without engaging in public feuds. But behind the scenes, his daughter has since revealed the incident weighed heavily on him. While he never allowed it to halt his success, it left a lingering sense of rejection that shaped his perspective on the industry. The CMA incident was a clear signal that, despite his achievements, there would always be some who questioned his place in country music. In the end, this moment at the CMA Awards became a defining event for both artists. For Rich, it symbolized a clash between his values and the changing world of country music, a final act of rebellion that ultimately damaged his career. For Denver, it was a painful reminder of his outsider status within the country music community. Though both men moved forward, the night left a mark that would stay with them forever, illustrating how one controversial act can resonate through time, shaping legacies and redefining how we remember them. Decades later, the 1975 CMA incident remains shrouded in mystery and controversy, leaving fans and historians to wonder, was Charlie Rich's act purely a moment of impulse, or was it part of a larger hidden agenda? Despite the countless interviews, speculation, and rumors that have surfaced since that night, no one has ever fully uncovered what truly drove Rich to such an extreme act. Some believe it was a spontaneous expression of frustration, while others argue there were deeper forces at play. One lingering mystery involves Rich's state of mind that night. Many have speculated that he may have been drinking, as he had struggled with alcohol throughout his career. Some who were close to him suggested that, under normal circumstances, he wouldn't have done something so drastic. But whether his actions were influenced by alcohol or simply by emotion, we may never know. Rich himself never fully explained his motivations, leaving the public to interpret and debate the meaning behind that moment. Then there's the question of whether Rich's act was influenced by others within the country music community. Some insiders have hinted that he wasn't the only traditionalist who felt threatened by Denver's mainstream appeal. It's possible that others with similar views privately encouraged him to take a stand, hoping his protest would make a strong statement about preserving country's roots. However, no concrete evidence has ever surfaced to support this theory, and it remains a topic of debate among fans and historians. In the end, the CMA incident has become more than just a scandalous awards show moment. It's a symbol of the deep divisions within country music during a time of cultural shift. For some, it represents the struggle between tradition and change, authenticity and commercialism. And while Rich's reasons may remain elusive, his actions left a legacy that speaks to the complexities of fame, rivalry, and the unspoken rules of an evolving industry. The questions may never be answered, but the impact of that night continues to echo through country music history. The 1975 CMA incident between Charlie Rich and John Denver remains one of country music's most unforgettable moments. What seemed like a spontaneous act of defiance was, in many ways, a reflection of the tensions and conflicts brewing within the industry. A clash between traditional country roots and a new wave of artists bringing the genre to mainstream audiences. For Rich, that brief moment of flame was more than just a rebellious gesture. It was a stand for the authenticity he believed was slipping away. But for Denver, it was an unwelcome reminder that, despite his success and the fans who loved him, he would always be an outsider in the eyes of some. Over time, this incident has become part of the complex legacy both men left behind. For Rich, it marked a turning point that would cast a shadow over his career. For Denver, it was a painful yet defining experience, one that underscored his unique place in the music world. Though both men are no longer with us, this story lives on as a powerful reminder of the divides that shape country music and the personal costs that came with fame and creative expression. In the end, the burning card symbolized more than just one man's protest. It embodied a moment of transformation, a struggle for identity in a changing world. The flames may have faded, but the questions and the impact endure, leaving fans to wonder what really drove Rich to make that choice and how it changed country music forever.